friend, Dr. Pradipta Biswas. He's an assistant professor at the Center for Product Design and Manufacturing at IISc Bangalore. And also he's an associate faculty now at the Robert Bosch Center for Cyber Physical Systems at IISc. His interests, of course, you know already: user modeling, multimodal human-machine interaction for various applications, including aviation and automotive environments, and for assistive technology. Dr. Biswas did his undergrad from Kalyani University in Information Technology, did his master's from IIT Kharagpur, and did his PhD at University of Cambridge in the UK, where then he stayed on for a number of years as a senior researcher and also a research fellow at Wolfson College, one of the 30 odd colleges in Cambridge, and that's a prestigious fellowship. He was a student at Trinity College and also research associate at Trinity Hall. Uh, he worked at, well, he has a number of courses that he takes. He's also set up the interaction design lab at CPDM, and he's a co-chair of the IRG AVA and focus group on smart TV. He is a member of the UKRI International Development Peer Review College, Society of Flight Test Engineers, and a professional member of the British Computer Society, as well as an associate fellow of the UK Higher Education Academy and the Royal Society of Medicine. So he's also a keen rifle shooter and won lots and lots of medals there. So I always speak to him with great reverence. Um, so over to you, Dr. Pradipta. Welcome.
Thank you, Professor Chakraborty. Good afternoon, everyone. And thanks for the kind introduction. So I think it will be good to turn on the video for a while, just to ensure it is being only. So it's a pleasure and privilege to present uh, on this particular seminar. So I will turn off the video now and start sharing my slide. I have the chat window open. So at any point of the time, if you have any question, please put it in the chat window. And I will also be happy to answer any email regarding my talk. So let me start sharing my slides. So may I request Dr. Srinivas to confirm that if my slides are visible?
Yes, they are visible.
Okay, and please stop me if I am inaudible or if you cannot see my slides. And in yesterday and today, there were short duration power cuts in my place. So just to let you know that but those are short duration. So if that happen, I may be off the grid for a while, but hopefully we can come back soon. Anyway, so let us start. So thanks again for the kind introduction and this opportunity. So today I will talk about interactive AR/VR systems, which is a very new topic for me also. And I am also in the learning phase along with my students and staff. And we did some interesting research while we integrated deep learning with interactive AR/VR system. And so far, it looks like that it may open new avenues of applications and research, in particular in the present context of COVID-19 related lockdown. So in the next few slides, I will try to present you a very brief introduction of both AR/VR systems as well as deep learning. And then mostly I will take you through various case studies from my sponsored projects. So again, thanks to Professor Chakraborty, I will skip the track record slide. So here, maybe the only point of interest will be a picture of my graduation ceremony back in 2010. And I set up the i3D lab in 2016 after joining IISc. And so far, we are uh, fortunate to got good industrial funding. And thanks to our fantastic PhD students and research staff, we make good publications and also media coverage in both national and international media, uh, including New Scientist, Tech Explore, and NDTV, All India Radio, etc. And we also filed a few patents in last 4 years. So we filed 5 patents, and 4 of them has been picked up by industry, namely Forestia and Bosch, and they filed PCT applications for that. Hopefully, that will make our department name true, that we can finally design a workable product out of that. So today I will talk about, first I will introduce the AR and VR technology and the continuum space between the augmented and virtual and mixed reality. I will spend a few slides on historical AR VR systems, because it's always good to look back at history before venturing into future. I will have a couple of slides on the digital twin, because that is the main research goal or applications we are working on. We will show some manufacturing use cases, mostly from our smart manufacturing setup, both in terms of VR and AR. And then we will slightly shift topic towards deep learning. I do not have a lot of equations on my slide, but I will very briefly introduce the main subject area of object detection and the contrast between classical computer vision based techniques and the recent convolutional neural network based techniques. Again, there will be not more than 2-3 details I will be happy to provide later on. And then finally, I will show use cases where we integrated convolutional neural network with virtual reality or augmented reality environment. And then finally, we'll finish with concluding remarks. So let us first look at the continuum between the real reality and virtual reality. So the augmented reality, as the name suggests, right, to augment real life information. So either
Can't
this
hear you,
real life,
Pradipto.
is it any better?
Yeah, better.
Okay. So thanks. So
Actually, there is a
in
feedback from the mic.
is it any better? Hello.
Yeah, now this is better.
Okay. So I will hold this pose. Thank you. So in case of augmented reality, we capture the real reality directly or through a camera. And when we capture it directly, we term it as the optical see-through interface, because we combine the synthetic images with real reality using optical means. And in case of video see-through display, we combine synthetic imagery on the real live camera feed. And there is also the third kind of augmented reality, where we project something on realistic objects. But in all these cases, we uh, keep the real reality and augment it with various means. On the other extremum, we have the virtual reality, in which case we all cut out the full reality and the user immerse in a virtual environment. And the 3 I's that stand for virtual reality are immersive, interactive, and imaginative. So all these 3 are interrelated to each other.
Are you making any adjustment? We are not able to hear you.
Yes, I was just because I got a chat message that my breathing sound is coming over the microphone, so I was just uh, holding it slightly away and speaking rather loudly.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
thanks, welcome. So, in between the virtual and real reality remains the augmented virtuality, in which case we try to insert 3D or pseudo 3D objects into real reality, or we take the live camera feed from the real reality and insert it into virtual reality. So we will look at some use cases of mixed reality in the later slides. Right. So here is again another comparison of the augmented and virtual reality, which we already discussed. And the augmented reality in some cases is easy to deploy because that we can deploy with our standard devices like smartphones, laptops, or tablets. On the other hand, for virtual reality, we need special optical arrangement. And even with special optical arrangement also, we need high-end computing systems because it is possible to use low-end computing system, but then the immersion or the quality of immersion degrades because the virtual environment doesn't look like very realistic. But as we use more and more computing resources, it becomes more realistic. And in real reality, it still or pretend the real environment, while in virtual reality it creates artificial scenario. Both has their own pros and cons, and these are the main components of augmented and virtual reality. So in augmented reality, we the uh, backbone of our augmented reality is a spatial model of the real reality, and the spatial model is related to real world model using various matrix transformation like view transformation or projection transformation, and the virtual content is matched with the spatial model. And again, it takes a lot of help from computer graphics literature and various computer graphics algorithm. And then when we add interaction to it, then it comes more towards the human computer interaction side. But again, updating the augmented or synthetic imagery on the real imagery, that remains a challenge. In case of virtual reality, we need not to care about the changing real reality because in augmented reality we do not have any control on the real reality. Like when we are driving, we do not know what is going to happen on the road. But my synthetic imagery should ideally be adjusted to the outside reality. Similarly, with say smartphone based augmented reality. On the case of virtual reality, we are like God, we have the full control of the environment. But saying so, we have to track the head position of the user, and as the user is moving his head or moving his eye gaze, the synthetic imagery should update consistently to give a feeling of immersion. And similarly, when the user is actually interacting with the device in various way, then both the input and output modalities that should be synergistic together. And a lot displays, tactile display, spatial audio, and so on. So here are the challenges of augmented and virtual reality. That the sensing objects in reality is one big challenge. Accommodation versions conflict is a well-known problem in augmented reality. So it comes from the sense that the virtual or synthetic imagery and the real reality, they often occur in a different z plane or different z axis, and the user, they have to change their vergence eye gaze movement into two different planes in the 3D axis. So one possible solution is to track eye gaze and appropriately modify the synthetic imagery as well, or we have to sense the depth of real images and adjust the virtual images accordingly, so that both the virtual image and the real reality happens in the same z axis or same z plane. Now both are possible, but doing them within a small form factor of a wearable device or a smartphone is still remain one of the challenges. In case of virtual reality, that updating models with interaction and the ergonomics, that means if the system requires us to wear a bulky headset, so then it becomes usable for a short duration of time. But of course, that doesn't become usable in a factory floor or beyond a certain time limits. And we will see that some very early example of virtual reality, and we will see that how the ergonomics is so much improved nowadays. And similar logic of ergonomics also hold true for wearable augmented reality devices. That means the heat generation and the weight of the wearable device all should be reduced for longer use and wider adoption of similar technology. So let us look back at history, and the very first, if we can say, the virtual reality simulator is the Sensorama simulator. And if you really look, take your eyes very near to the screen, here you can see that this patent was filed or granted, so far I remember, at the year of 1962. So this Sensorama simulator tried to give you a virtual set of a bike riding experience through New York, and it has various output modalities, which is popularly nowadays known as 3D, 4D, 5D, etc. So some of the interesting effect was the gust of wind can come to the face of the user, and there was realistic vibration, motion, and sound all together. Uh, all these were in the year during 1962, which time the digital technology, there was no deep learning or there was no internet, but it was not a very successful product, but still it is considered one of the very early attempt to generate a realistic immersive environment. The second example from a very famous person, the sword of Damocles. So first, just to give you the idea of sword of Damocles, so hopefully many of you already know about it. That there is a story that Damocles was a consort in the island of Sicily, and he was very he considered the king Dionysius II as very fortunate that he is so powerful and he is so fortunate. So king make Damocles king for one day, and he wanted to give him a feeling that how it feels like to be a um, someone in charge or someone as a king. So he gave him all the facilities the king have, with the extra facility that a sword was hanging over his head only by a single strain of a horse's tail. So the moral of the story is that great power also come with great risk. So the hanging of the sword by the single strain of horse tail uh, named the system Sword of Damocles, because it was a bulky system developed at Harvard, and it was developed by Evan Sutherland, who is considered as the father figure of computer graphics. So one of his very another pioneering work was Sketchpad, which was recently published as a technical report by Cambridge University Computer Laboratory. So in this system also a bulky computing system, and with the headset was hanging by roof, and the person have to wear it and can give a stereoscopic immersive experience using the system. But again, the weight of the system makes it less usable beyond demonstration. So if we look at a more working system, then we have to jump back to early 1990s, and where Boeing employed a wearable device to look at the wear fabrication behind the skin of the interior of an aircraft. And interestingly, recently I am talking to ADA for a similar application which they are looking at. So this was one of the very early example of augmented reality system, or probably that is the first time when the word augmented reality was uttered, and also it has was used commercially. So this is one of the very early example of working prototype of an AR system. So with that, let us move us to the present day and more about our research. So I will start talking with virtual reality digital twins. So digital twin is a very well-known concept, and it has many applications on process modeling and even decision support system, and also a virtual reality system is also integrated with robotic system, or rather I should say cobot system, or collaborative robot to control robots from VR. And this picture I took from a recent white paper by Bosch, which is very interesting, and I do recommend to check the attendees to check it out if anyone is interested in digital twin, which divides the digital twin into three basic building blocks like physical asset, digital model, and failure models, and also broadly divides into sensor, software, and services, and which is also a similar architecture followed by Siemens also when they presented their idea of digital twin. And in recent time, digital twin also find new applications for measuring social distancing in the context of COVID-19 related lockdown. And earlier also digital twins have been employed to look at density of people at different portions of office spaces. So on the right side, you can find a couple of pictures, and anyone interested, I can share the source with you. So with this in mind, I will show you the first video of developing a virtual reality digital twin for our smart manufacturing setup. And before running the video, just to give you some intro that what the video is doing, that we integrated the real-time sensors with the virtual reality environment through network sockets. And we also integrated various interaction techniques like gaze controlled interaction or haptic feedback with the interactive sensor dashboard. And the system was developed in a very collaborative way. That means our MDES projects, MDES students, they developed CAD model of various machines that were installed in our smart factory, and we can keep on adding imported this CAD model inside the VR environment, and we can literally push or move these VR models to actual physical setup. So this video was recorded during the time of inauguration of our smart manufacturing facility. Showing sensor reading and interactive sensor dashboards can be operated just by looking at it. So with this, we will move to the next one. So where we use the, you can see that it's the same setup, but we integrated live video inside the VR digital twin. So from a virtual reality, we turned it into a mixed reality, and we just simulated a AGV operation. AGV means automated ground vehicle with our VR digital twin. So what we are trying to do here. So imagine that you are sitting in a remote place with the donning the headset, and you want to operate this white robot here. So the VR digital twin will allow you to operate this robot and also this AGV, and the robot is programmed to pick up blue colored and square shaped objects from top of the car. So a very standard activity in manufacturing setup, that AGV will bring a particular object to you and the robot will pick it up and place it somewhere. And the whole thing you can control from a VR environment with real-time feedback. That what is happening, you can see it in real time. So this video was recorded during the IISc Open Day on 29th February, probably our last big event before the lockdown. So all these videos are also available in YouTube, or if not all, then most of the videos. So anyone has any problem in seeing the video, I can send the YouTube link also. So we are still addressing some research challenge in terms of seamlessly merging the real-time video into the VR environment, which still requires some geometric processing, and also to show a 360-degree view that is also challenging. But those are some open area which we are presently working on. So from the domain of virtual reality, let us come back to the augmented reality. And here again, I will present you a couple of use cases. So on the left hand side, we are using a Pico projector to augment the display on a standard computer screen with more information. On the right hand side, we are showing a set of red and green blobs on the factory floor, and you can take picture using your mobile phone of any of these blobs, and then based on the location it will show you more information. And then moving on, we as one of our MDS project, we developed a PCB inspection module. So PCB is printed circuit board, and the aim of the research was developing a chip inspection system where we do not have the definition of the PCB board in the form of Gerber file or CAT files. And here using computer vision technique, we try to indicate to the user that what is the correct orientation of the chip. So here we use this video see-through technology. So we capture the live video and process it in real time. And in doing so, we undertake some interesting research on the quality of light and resolution of camera. And contrary to popular belief, it turns out to be to get a better latency or real-time feedback, we use the low quality or low resolution camera instead of a high resolution camera. And then the system show a cross mark on the designated position on the PCB where this chip has to be put. So then there were further research plan of integrating robotic circuit with robotic arm with that, which is still kind of ongoing work here. But from the manufacturing perspective, let us move to the more person-specific use cases. That all these systems aim to help workers to achieve their goal. So what about when the worker himself has a physical impairment? So in this video recorded at the Plastic Society of India at Chennai, or presently known as Vidyasagar, which is very near to IIT Madras, and it's a school for students with different range of abilities. Mostly they uh, work with students with cerebral palsy who cannot speak and who are also uh, uh, paralyzed from shoulder downwards. But still these students, they attend this school as a regular school, and they also take part in various physical activity with the help of caretakers, although they cannot move their any of their body parts. And one of such physical activity was fabric printing task, where one of their caretaker picked up a piece of small string, and then the person somehow indicate a particular color. They powder just drop this piece of string in this powder dye, and then the caretaker has to pick it up and drag it on a piece of cloth, and it creates sort of design. So we noted that this task is pretty time consuming and also a bit boring for both the person with the disability as well as the caretaker, because many a long time she has to just drop piece of string and kind of rub it on a piece of cloth, and it's very repetitive. So we thought that we can make this repetitive for this repetitive process we can employ a robotic agent. So till early February this year, we worked with these students and we taught them to operate robotic arm using IS control system. So here is the video. So unfortunately, just when we planned to deploy the system, the school got closed, and which is still closed now. So here we used a very small robotic DIY kit. We just bought it from Amazon. It's cost less than 2,000 rupees, and but we can program it and we need some hand calculation on deriving the kinematics equation. But then we get more or less accurate performance that in the screen the red blob is showing where the user is looking at, and he or she can pick and place these badminton shuttlecocks. And in this case, we integrated computer vision technology. So the do fixed shape or color signature. And this robot is costlier than the previous robot, and it has kinematics equation installed.
I think you may have to reconsider your voice, Mike. I think something is disturbed again.
Better?
No.
So,
Not yet better.
I don't know. I gave
Yeah, now it's
three
better.
talks. Oh my god. Okay, so I will continue. I don't
Yeah.
know what is going on because I just today morning also I gave a talk, so working well. Anyway, so we
Can you just check
undertook
the mic connection into the system? Maybe there is something loose there.
this RC jack, nothing special. Anyway, I will
Yeah, no,
try
this is
my
best.
best. So here, what we can see that for eye gaze tracking, we again developed some algorithm based on deep learning, and we do not require an eye gaze tracker, and we can track eyes with webcam. And we need not to only confine to robots, so we also make a small embodiment, and using that we can control any joystick using multiple modalities, using eye gaze and or gesture or voice, anything. And we can make semi-autonomous control on any cyber physical system which is controllable by a joystick. So this is a toy RC car bought from Big Bazaar, again less than 2000 rupees cost, but we can program it to move to a particular towards a particular target. And the same thing can also be used for towards drones. So from AR/VR system, now we will slightly move to a different topic towards the convolutional neural network, or CNN. Again, we will not go into mathematical details, but let us look at the classical computer vision principle. So the convolutional neural network, they are used for object detection and classification. So before them, how we detect object, that means we take a image or a stream of image, which is a video, then manually we extract feature, and for extracting feature we will use many different computer vision algorithm, like say for example color histogram algorithm for detecting color feature, or shape context type of algorithm to uh, detect shape feature, histogram of oriented gradient based method to look at patch or textures or change in gradient, and from that we detect objects or sketches and classify them based on these features. Now the problem with this approach was that this feature extraction, it becomes very much domain specific, and then and also this classification, it also becomes domain specific. So then researcher tried to see that how we can automate that process using the similarity or dissimilarity among video. So this is just a previous case study of this PCB inspection, in which case we used classical computer vision based technique. So here are the intermediate steps of this chip detection procedure. And you can see that the one advantage of this technique is we do not need any training data or any testing validation, but all these processes like RGB to HSV conversion, then splitting height channel, segmentation, all these process we have to go through multiple uh, routes of trial and error and testing many different algorithms and parameters ourselves, where we didn't have a lot of theoretical basis, and we have to select the one. We also did some experiments with the different lighting levels and colors, and then the best one we used as a demonstration. But then the process doesn't remain same, that we can do something very different. And the basis of CNN or convolutional neural network is the convolution operation. So convolution means that we will, as if I am taking a blob of sponge and I am moving this blob of sponge over a image. So image is nothing but a two-dimensional array. And if it is a three-dimensional array, that means the third dimension being the time axis. Maybe we can also say it four-dimensional if we look at the depth or XYZ, and that becomes a video. So the underlying mathematics remains same for image or video stream. So what we do that here, we take a target image and we do some sort of operation. Say for example, we can just add all these values and divide by 9, and that will be a averaging filter which we can use for masking, and that becomes a single XY field. And it is simply by adding this value or taking average of this value, we can achieve the effect of a low pass filter. And this is one, and this operation or this matrix is known as the convolution mask. And one of the famous convolution mask is the Sobel operator, which is widely used for edge detection. Although in recent time we use canny edge detection, which is give slightly better performance. So basically, by this convolution operation, I can do several otherwise complicated operation like filtering or enhancing contrast and so on. Or in the next couple of slides, you can see that we can also use this same convolution operation to automatically detect features of an image. So this is the pipeline of a convolutional neural network, that it has multiple convolution layers, and then it has something called max pooling. So the max pooling operation in the next slide, you can actually literally see that what max pooling do. The max pooling just reduce dimension of a high dimensional matrix. So why we do that? Because we try to see that how easily we can describe a particular feature. So again, let us go to the next slide. There we will see the what we can do with max pooling. But basically, a convolutional neural network, it takes an image or video as an input, and it has multiple layers of convolution and max pooling. And then it has another artificial neural network at the end, which does the classification that whether it is a cat or dog, right? And presently, many of these CNN like RetinaNet, YOLO, Masker CNN, many of these are available off the shelf. So any second or third year undergraduate, they can download it and they can integrate it with their program. And many of them work like a black box, that you can train it with a training data set. Again, training data set is available online, and then you can apply it to your own application. So we did some research with a couple of years ago with Wipro about an autonomous vehicle project, and we used existing, or we compared existing CNN model based on accuracy and latency for Indian road dataset. But rather than going into more theory, let us see ourselves that what actually happened on CNN. So one of my research staff, he is working on visualizing intermediate layer of convolutional neural net, and he presented the research this year in the ACM Automotive UI conference also. So here you can see that the two way that how the convolutional neural network detects different class of object, like a car here or a aeroplane here. So here you will see the convolution and max pooling operation. So this is the edge of an aircraft, and then it is becoming progressively more and more blurred. Why? Because it is trying to detect the minimal or most important features to detect the aircraft by taking like running this convolution and max pooling operation multiple times. And the result is that instead of manually generating the features, we can automatically detect the feature from the image itself. And then also there are visualization techniques by which we can find that which region of a particular object, like a car or aircraft, the CNN used to classify the particular system. So moving on, how we are using all this CNN with the AR/VR system. So this is a particular video we developed for our ongoing project with British Telecom on developing an interactive AR/VR system for their office room for measuring the occupancy level of their meeting rooms. And they have planned to deploy similar system both at their Bangalore office as well as their office in Ipswich in UK. And this project is also inspired by the presently COVID-19 related lockdown. So if two persons are more than 2 feet away, the bubble will be green in color. Otherwise, it will turn red. So let me show you what we are doing. So as soon as this person is near the sitting person, it will briefly will turn red. So here, what we are doing is we are using this digital twin for generating data set for our CNN model. So why we are doing so? Because all these CNN, we can download them as a black box model but for their successful operation, we have to train the model. Now this training part becomes difficult because for many situation, yes, we can download data set, say for autonomous vehicle or maybe persons in say traffic in a road, etc. But now say I want to develop a system for detecting the social distancing. Now it is very difficult for me to ask people to stand in close vicinity for generating data set. And secondly, why does this matter? Because as this is based on computer vision, so if I train a CNN model on outdoor data set, it is not guaranteed that it will work very well in an indoor data set with a specific wall color or lighting condition. So what we have done is we first use a digital twin, or we give a new purpose to the digital twin, that we make a very realistic digital twin and use it for training data generation for CNN model. And once, like in this case, we have this office-based simulation model, we can play with the color of dress and the posture of persons and the number of persons. So all these we can simulate and generate realistic data. And in parallel, of course, we can, for a particular example, we can compare the accuracy with the real image or real video that we are already doing. And as you can see that here, this real video has been fed to a convolutional neural network, and we trained the model and tested its accuracy as we have would have done for a real model. So this need not to be done only for say this particular situation, but we can also do so to generate data set for Indian traffic participants. So presently, most of the Indian uh, autonomous vehicle project, they use a data set created by IIIT Hyderabad. But then with using via digital twin, we can make customized data set as we want. So for example, here you can see that all objects are like cow, dogs, everything is standing on a particular side of road, which would have been difficult to generate in real time. And then it has further application in certain use cases where it is almost near to impossible to create a data set. So in one of our project, we are working on to develop a automatic taxi feature of one of India's leading military aircraft. So the idea is the pilot will land the aircraft and then take his hands off control, and the aircraft will follow lane mark and automatically taxi. Now, what if there is a person appear on the runway or another aircraft appearing on the taxiway? So that will be very drastic. Now, for a CNN model, I do not or I cannot actually ask a person that you stand in the middle of a runway or you put another aircraft on the taxiway to generate data. So again, in such cases, we can develop a realistic digital twin and use it to generate samples for training my CNN model. So in all this video, what we are doing, that we are streaming out the video from a VR environment to a convolutional neural network and feeding back the output of the CNN model to the real model. So when the, if you notice when the aircraft was in vicinity, this forward movement of the VR model is stopped automatically. And as soon as the aircraft moved away, which is indicated by a confidence code, the aircraft again start moving in virtual reality. And we can also do the other side of the story. So why I am making digital twin to measure meeting room occupancy. So actually I can put a camera inside a meeting room and measure the or detect persons within the field of view the camera and feed that information directly to the CNN model itself. So it is the other way around. So in the previous case, I am generating a synthetic video and using it to train a model to work in real life video. But we can do the other way around. That means we can use reality or real video to train a model and use it to feed details in a VR digital twin. So again, this is another video we developed for the British Telecom. So this is a virtual walkthrough to their Bangalore office space. And we have this similar interactive sensor dashboard that I just explained before for in the context of the smart manufacturing setup. And we also put some, this is the number of rooms and this is the COVID dashboard. It is kind of backdated, but it is showing the total number of active cases for the past 1 week. And this is the same social distancing that I just explained, that when two humanoid figures will be too nearby, within 2 feet, it will the bubbles will turn red. And we can also add audible or haptic feedback with that. Actually, there is the audible feedback, but we can also add haptic feedback to indicate. And then we integrated it with a real-time sensor where this one will change from 24 to 25 as the person is keep on holding that. And this is in the left side, this is a real video. This guy happens to be our student. So as he's walking away, one humanoid figure will disappear. So what is happening here, this is the output from a convolutional neural network, which is processing the webcam image. And it's the number of persons and the confidence is detecting in the person is fed to the CNN model through a network socket. And the CNN and the digital twin is updating itself accordingly by adding new humanoid figures. And it's a slightly old implementation. In present implementation, we can also simulate the walking of the person, that someone is walking and coming here. So now this is my last slide. So what are the concluding remarks? So here basically we looked at two very different topics which are not commonly taught or discussed together. One is AR/VR system and that is deep learning. And the advantage of AR/VR system is that it gives intuitive or immersive experience, and many traditional use cases worked on maintenance, process modeling, and so on. And we, by adding new modalities of interaction like gesture, eye gaze, haptic feedback, we can make it inclusive. We can make it more interactive or user friendly in terms of navigation or inspection use cases. And deep learning, which is traditionally being investigated for autonomous vehicles or visual inspection, but using very simple network socket technology, CNN models can be integrated to VR or AR digital twins and it can work in both ways. That means it can make a digital twin more realistic, that we can use it to measure the number of persons in a room or number of vehicles, objects, whatever, in real time. Other way around, we can also give a new purpose to digital twin, that we can use the digital twin to enrich a deep learning model where we cannot generate enough data set due to various situations like COVID-19 related social social distancing restriction, or say in some use cases involving privacy or security concerns, like use cases involving aircraft and airports. So both deep learning and AR/VR technology can enrich each other when we can combine them together, and they do have new applications both in manufacturing and context, in the, or also in the wider human machine or human computer interaction context. So with that, I will stop talking. Sorry that my voice got broken a few number of times. I do not know why it happened, but anyway, I hope this we will have a recording of this session, and I will be happy to answer any question now or maybe later if you would like to email me. So thanks again for your time, and now I am happy to take any question. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.